So now we'll build an API server using, so again backend it's Node.js. On top of that, we are using a framework called Express. So to do it, you need Node.js installed on your system. That's the first step. Then you can install the Express framework. So how we do is that we have a package manager called npm. Again, you have alternatives like the most popular npm and yarn. Yarn is by Facebook. So through that you can install, like if you see here, I can say npm install the framework name, which is Express, and do --save and you'll get saved. So Express is built on top of Node.js. Again, same story. You need to know Node.js first to understand it in the full, and then learn Express. And Express is very easy to get started. It's very minimal approach, but then there are frameworks with bells and whistles like Meteor.js is which is like it has like full stack. Like it will combine the backend, it will combine the front end with Angular and everything is there. So many frameworks are there. So let's for today we'll be building a simple server using Express. So to do that, you have to create a new folder. So I will name my project Express Test API. And once you move into the project, what you have to do is that you have to do npm init. And so that you're saying that, okay, this is a Node project and I want to initialize the npm package manager to have the package.json. So here it will ask you so many questions. If you want to skip this, you can also do npm init and -y, so that it will go to filled in. So now if you open it in the directory, we can see that VS Code, we can see that there is a one file called package.json. So this is where the installed project packages and everything will be stored here, and it also has the main, like what's the main file that should be running. We can also create scripts here that you can run for it to work. So what we can start is that, so if you see here, it's called main index.js. So let's create a file called index.js, and again JS is extension for JavaScript. So now we have a very simple thing going on here. Now what we can do is that let's install the package. So packages that we need. Okay, so now I can say npm install Express. Okay, so now we can see how the package.json changed, and there is a dependencies, JSON object here, and there's Express, and the version is here. So same thing happens, whenever you install it, will be added, and you can also install dev dependencies. So the dependencies are the ones that will run when you are, putting the application in production, and dev environments, basically for development tooling stuff. So now what you can do is that because now we have Express installed, you can import Express. So this is again, the import. This is how you import the package after you install it. Also, one other step that we have to do is that because this syntax is not supported by current version of JavaScript. Like I said, there is many versions that come out every year, Master 6 and other common. There's a two-type paradigms. One is common JS and one is module. So in common JS, what you have to do is that you have to write Express, then you have to write the require keyword, and you have to put the name. So this is how you have to write it. But the modern approach is to use import, and to do that you have to just make one simple change here. Here you have to say type and just module, and this will work without any error. And next is that once you do import Express, you have to initialize it. And so I am writing this word called app here, variable called app, and I'm setting this Express initialization. So now to create a route, so basically whenever you are going to website, so now if I come here, what's happening is that there is a HTTP call that went to the server and said I want something in the slash. Slash is the root. So they are like, oh, this is the server will be like, okay, for the root, this is the page, I will send this page, right? So, but if you go to, if you click on this page, you can see the route change here. So these are the routes. So it's saying expressjs.com, which is the slash root, then it's saying en starter slash installing.html. So here, this is, server is spitting out the HTML page. This is one way of building it. Again, back in the days, and still people, back in the days, mostly people are using on top of HTML, they were using something called EJS. Pug was used. So those are templating languages that we could use. Even with Express, you can do that. You can have pages that could be sent down to the client, but that's a server that will do that part. But here we are trying to make an API, so no difference. With an API, what is happening is you are sending out JSON data, and the client will be handling the JSON and doing its own thing to render it. So, like I said, with EJS and Pug, what was happening was the server itself was combining it and sending the data on top of HTML. So those are Pug and EJS are templating language on top of HTML, just enhances HTML. That's it. So later on, when React and Angular came, the front-end engineers said, do one thing, you backend guys don't do any HTML or anything, forget all that. You guys give us JSON data and we will take care of JSON data. We will, maybe we will build a mobile app with Flutter, or maybe we will build a web app with React. We will take care of that. You just give us JSON data. So that's what happened. And so this is the way to create a route in Express. So first you initialize it with Express, then you say app.get. Again, get is these are HTTP methods. So you have get is there, post is there, then you have put, then you have delete. So get means get data, give me some data. That's what get means. So when you want to get data from the server, use get. When you want to save something to the DB or something, you have to post something, maybe someone filled in a contact information. Now you want that to be stored in the database by the server, then you do post request. If you want to update a field, like it's your username that you want to update, then you use put request. And if you want to delete, obviously you will use the delete tree, the delete tree. So this is how we write a route. So now, so route is there, but we have not started the server. To start the server, what we can do is that we have to just do app.listen. Right. So now Express is in the app variable. We are saying app do one thing, listen on this port. So this is the port that we are giving in. We can give 5,000 or whatever, but 3,000 is what we normally give for Express. So if you see here in the VS Code is showing that listen will take in a port and it has a callback. So when this runs, what we should do? So we can say we can log it to the console. So the console server is listening on port 3000. And now what we can do is we can say node. So how to run this, right? So this is JavaScript which runs on the web. That's what we learned. So how can it run in the backend? So that for that what we do is that we say node and we say index.js is my file name. So now what happened is that the server is running in my system on port 3000. So how to access it? What I can do is I can come here, I can say HTTP. Because it's in localhost, there is no HTTPS, I can say 3000. And I get hello world. Right. So because it's a slash, it's a route, it's a root, I got this. Now if I create a new one, I can say I'm.slash about. What I should get is that maybe I can print this.json about page. So now if I go to slash about, what will happen is that you won't get anything. It will say cannot get slash about. The reason is that there is no hot reloading here, right? So every time I write a new code here, I have to stop the server by hitting Control C. I have to run it again.
You misspelled the about.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So now we get abort because I restarted it, right? So, uh, so this is very bad experience, right? So to write it, had to have a very, like every time you write a new route, you had to stop the server, you had to run the server. So the solution is again, it's in, if you go to npm, then there is a package called nodemon. So again, these are something that lacks in Node.js because Node.js came first. But if you see one that was released recently, Dino, they have solved these problems by default, like no need to install a new package. So I will install nodemon. Now I just installed it. Again, npm installer, npm I same thing, then the package name. So now I have a nodemon here again. Like I said, nodemon is not for production. It's for dev dependency, just for development purpose. So what you can do is that npm I nodemon and save dev. So now if you see, it's installed on dev dependency and not on dependency. So nodemon is there now. So what you can do now, you can either call nodemon and index.js. Okay, so first you have to do is that you can maybe write it here. So again, I said that there is scripts that you can use. So we will say dev. So dev is a script that I just wrote now. So what you'll do is it will use nodemon to run index.js. So now if I come and pm run dev, it will say listening on port 3000. The difference is that later I was using Node.js Node to run the application. Now I'm using nodemon, which is same thing, but it will say it will do the hot reloading part. Like I will make a new route here. Yeah, so as soon as I click save, it is reloading. Right now, so now if I go to /y, I get this page, y page. Again, like here it is seeming like a page. This is actually JSON that's coming. So I open Firefox. So this is what's happening really. It's basically JSON that's printed. So it's not a web page that we are rendering. We are just this is some extension working on Chrome, making it seem like a page. So we are returning that. So if you see here, so we have app.get, which is the method. Then we have the path of the route that we want. Then we have rec and rest. So rec basically request and response. That's what it is. We have shortened it for rec and rest. So request is what's coming in the request, like rec, to get rec.params. So when there is a parameters out there, you can fetch that. A response is basically responding to the request. So that's why we are saying rest.json. Respond with a JSON. So if you want to get if we are sending some body to this request, we can fetch that by saying rec.body, and we get that. So that's the basics of this. Now if you want to build the application, so again Express has some concept called middlewares. So middlewares, like middlewares are something that will run behind the scene before executing this, executing what's inside the function to like safeguard the server and other things. So again, like like I said, we can do post request, and from there you can get the body. But to like that JSON data, for the server to get it, it should know how to parse it. So there's a body parser that you have to install. So that's a middleware that you'll use. So earlier it was a different package, but now we can say app.use, and it's express.json. And what this is doing is that it will let you parse the JSON body that we'll be getting from the client. So this approach, so here how to send data to the server, there is no way to do that, right? So for that we will have to use a HTTP request client like Postman, or you can use something called Thunder client. So this is a way I can interact with my API while building it. So I can say localhost 3000. I will get hello world, right? If I go to Y, I will get a web page. So this is the way I interact with it. Now to send a post request, so maybe I can say app.get / user and rec.res. Here I can say, so first I will console log it, rec.body and rest.json. I can send. If I do that now, if I come back here, I can go to here and say /user, and the body I can say username, then I can put in. So I can do this, and if I click send, I get user added here. So and the status is 200. Okay, so it's done. It's working. Again, there is status codes that you can use on scenarios like a internal server or while like user added something. So mostly when something is added to the database, you will be sending in 201. So it will be status 201. So if I do that again, I will get 201, which is for creator. 200 is like, okay, everything is working fine. So here you can see the console log also. So this is how you console log, and rec.body now has username and passwords. So that's the basis. Now so the project that we are building is that so GitHub has this concept. So GitHub is where we will manage our core projects and everything. So GitHub has this concept of how to handle, how to issues are there. There's a concept of issues where you can create issues. So what's happening is that we want to build an API that will let anyone use the API and create issues without touching GitHub. Like without logging into GitHub, they should be able to use our server and do that. That's what we are trying to do. And so for that, you need something to talk to GitHub server, GitHub API, right? So there is GitHub has created their own SDK called OctoKit. So this is a OctoKit library, that SDK that GitHub has given us, so that we can interact with this GitHub's package. So how to install it? Same thing, npm i OctoKit. So maybe I'll stop the server, then I can have to do npm i OctoKit. So when you are on this page of npm, just you can also see the URL to GitHub repositories. So here you can see AutoKit.js, all batteries included, GitHub SDK. So this SDKs, these companies provide SDKs or APIs through which you can talk. For now, we are building our own API to do the same thing. So here, if you scroll down, you can also get how they are doing it. So we can, after installation is done, what you can do is that you can import OctoKit, just like we did with the other thing. So we'll import OctoKit from OctoKit. So here you can see we are doing OctoKit new. So this is the initialization part. First you have to import it, and so the difference between this bracket and without bracket is that, so here we are using bracket and we have to use bracket here also. So this is basically named exports. So GitHub, this SDK is exposing this OctoKit function to us. So that's why we are using this thing. So here also you can do the same thing without using Express. You can also import each item individually. Like you can say router, there's a router that you can use, and you can say amp.use router, and here you can switch it with router. So, but for now with Express, we are just going for plain things, but we can also use named imports. So now we have OctoKit. So now how to initialize it? So we will initialize it here. So again, the code is here. So we type it in, says OctoKit equal to new OctoKit. So this we are referring to this, and we are saying auth, and we have to pass a personal access token. So when we are dealing with secrets, so this is a secret. This is an out that we should not expose in our code. Like we are pushing this code to the server, to GitHub or any other place, and no one should see this. So how that is handled is we will create a new file called .env, and here we can say GitHub auth token, and I can paste in the token here. And here what I can do is that I can say process.env.github auth token. Now this won't work. So for this to work, there is another package called .env that we have to install. So it's called .env, which makes it easier to work with environment variables. So what this does is that it loads environment variables, a symbol. So you can import it again, import this thing. And once that's done, you can do import .env from .env. Then you have to do .env.config to activate it. So now it's there. Now this process.env.github token will work. So now we have that. Now what I need a auth token now. So to get an auth token, what I can do is I can come here to my settings, and here is developer settings. I can go to personal access tokens. In the tokens there is, I already have access token, but I can create a new one. So here I had to enter in my auth token. So once you paste this auth token, so this is again the way companies deal with so when you're creating an API, you can't expose it to everyone. Like you should not let anyone come and use it. So what you do is that you give them access tokens, or some token API keys that you provide to the client or other developers, so that they can come and use. So if you are using Stripe API or something, you are doing the same thing. They have given you an API key or token that you are using here. So here I can say token for GitHub Express API. Any name I can give, and I can choose the duration of it. So I will go for 7 days, and here it says permissions. What permissions do you need? I say I need permission for repository, because we are trying to create an issue on a repository, so this information is needed. And again, if you are doing it for an organization, you have to get permission for admin org, so that you can do the same thing for an organization. And again, you can go through the permissions for user, updating user details, all those informations are there, but we'll just go with the repository part and maybe project. Then I can generate token. So now I have a token here, and says copy it now, it won't be available later. So I do that. So I will paste it here. I'll fix the typo. So this key is here now. Now I'm doing the initialization here. So now what I can do is that now we will create. So what API do we need? We need an endpoint. So we can say endpoint is post. It will be using the HTTP method post, because we are posting data, and it will have the page route will be issues. And here again, there are many conventions on how you will design an API. Like the names should be nouns, non-verbs. Like it should not be create issues. You should not use verbs here. You should use nouns, and nouns with plural. So that's how the API building standard is, and you can go through it and read through that. So so endpoint, we need that issues, and it will send in JSON body of project name. We need issue title and issue description. So this is a route we are trying to build now. So again, you can see, because I have commented, GitHub Copilot is actually suggesting me. So if I do app.post and issues, then I do this, and I can say rec, and if you see, I'm not using semicolons. JavaScript has semicolons initially, but JavaScript has semicolons, but again, there are different standards that we can follow as when we're working in a company. There are many developers. We need to standardize these things. So there are guidelines on which you can do the coding. There's linting that can happen. So there is by Google has one, Airbnb has one. Those are the famous ones. And other famous one is JavaScript standard styling guide. So I'm using that. That's why this semicolon is not there. Even if I put semicolon, it will be removed by the checker, the formatting tool. So yeah. So now we can first console log our rec.body, and what we can do is that, so now what we did is that we have an express server that's running, that's listening. We added the auth token, we initialized OctoKit. Now we know this will work. So if we come here and say rest.json, done, and if I run the server again, so I run npm run dev. So for that nodemon index to work, you need to install it locally in your system. But I don't want to do that, so I am using npm run dev. And now if I go here and if I come here and say issues, and I fill in project name, so this should be project name. So my project name is no scrape. This is just another project I built, another API, which will scrape, hacking news from different websites and put it in a single place. So I need issue title. So I can say test from server, and another is issue description. So testing server, since that's enough. Now if I do this, I cannot get, yeah, because so now if there's an error that is cannot get issues because we are doing get here. So what we should do is post, because here we have mentioned post. If I run it again, I get done. Right. So also the console log is printing project name, issue title, issue description. So now all that I need to do is that I should write the logic for creating the issues using OctoKit. And how to do that? What I can do is that if I open an article I wrote, here I have that code. Again, you will get the same thing from their README page also. You can scroll through the documentation and you can get how to do these actions, how to create, how to pull the request, and all those things will come. So here, if I come here, so this is the OctoKit. I just paste it here. So what's happening is that it's calling OctoKit, the SDK, and saying .rest, .issues, and the action is to create with the owner, who is the owner of the repository. So here it says GitHub username. So what I can do is that I can come here and I can put in GitHub username and my account name. Then project name is project name that we got here. So what I can do here is that I can do this. So basically from rec.body we are extracting this project name, issue title, and issue description. The reason it will work because here also we pass the same thing. If there's a mismatch, don't work. So now I got something to pass here. Now what I can do is that, so now await is causing error because against about async await you need to, if something takes time, then you should say that to wait before proceeding. So that's what is happening here. So here we can do const response. So now what's happening is that this will run, and when this finishes, there is something that OctoKit SDK will provide us. We are storing that in the response. We will also console that. So now we will console response, and here you can choose to, for now let's leave it as rest.json done, and we status we will put 201, and we will remove this. So again, server restarted, no need to do anything. I'm not sure if I add an environment it will work, but yeah. So if I come here, I click here, I get error here. It says fetch is not set, please pass as fetch implementation. So the reason it didn't work is that what they did with the API is that I mean the SDK OctoKit is that they we want to pass in one more parameter called fetch. Basically, they made the library simple enough and said that you can implement your own requesting part. So that for this REST a dot issues dot that calling to work, you need to pass something. So we need to install a package called node fetch. Again, you can go with any library. I'm going with node fetch here. I believe you can pass Axios also. So Node.js, Node fetch is a library, lightweight module that brings fetch API so that you can fetch things. And all that I have to do is that I have to install it. So now I'm installing this fetch API, and this is because the OctoKit SDK requires it. That's it. So here I say request and I have to import that. So I do import fetch from node fetch, and I just pass this here. Now if I run the server again and I come here, I click here, I get another error that says fetch is not set, please set fetch. So now the error is okay. So the way I kept it wrong, I had to put it in a braces. So done. Now if I try, it should work. It's taking time, it's working. So now in the console we see that we get a huge response from OctoKit. Okay, so it's saying the project name, all those things, and there is also data here. So this is JSON actually. So there is data, and they're saying is that URL is given here. So we have many data here. So one way is that you just spit out, because we are an API and we are just talking to another API, and you can either spit out all this information as it is. Okay, so here in the JSON you can do response dot just put out response here, or because we are good developers, we understand what the client needs, so you say okay. The only thing that's important here is this HTML URL, which will be somewhere here, HTML URL. So this is the URL to the that issue that was created now. So if I open that issue, I can see this issue created here. One issue, there was no issues here. The issue created test from server and testing server. So we successfully created an API which can create this, from server. If you type again, I do send again. I come here, I can see another which was created. So now what happened is that you have this API. Okay, this API can create SDK. So your client doesn't have to come here and go through GitHub. They can use your thing. Then you're like, okay, this is hard. How can they do this? They don't have to do this. What you can do is that you can write a Flutter application, or maybe Angular application, or whatever you want, and you can create a simple page, maybe simple HTML page, which takes in a form, JavaScript, just simple thing that will ask the user to enter these three things. And they input that, they press submit button, the call will reach here, this server, and this server will use the OctoKit SDK and will push that to the server. Create this thing and let your client know it's done. Because of status 201, you will get back that status and you will understand, okay, it's done, it's completed. Maybe you can also respond with your that response.data dot. If I print HTML URL, and if I do it once again, see, you can see that this is returned. So what I will do here is that I will response.data dot. Now if I click again, I will get this, right? So you can again wrap it in a, you can wrap it like this. You can call it data, and you can say maybe URL, URL. So you can go deeper and customize your data, how this comes. So the beauty of this is that your front end doesn't care what technology you're using in the backend. It doesn't care if you're using Express, it doesn't care if you're using MySQL, MongoDB, it doesn't care. For it, it needs a JSON data which that you have to pass, that's it. When you pass JSON data and it's working done. So this is how the data is returned. Data, URL, and this is. So again, this data is what the client is, the front end developers are using, and they don't care the backend implementation. So no matter if you change the stack or anything, they won't notice unless if you change the JSON data. So also just on top of that, so when building APIs, what you can do is that you can you start what you can do is that, so maybe create a router and say express.router, and you can say app.use, and you will prefix it with API /API/version. So what this will do is that now if I come here and I change these two routers, basically we just abstracting it and using this. So now if I go to /y, this won't work because path is not correct. But if I come here and I say API/v1/y, I will get the Y page. So the beauty of this is that you have this versioning system that's going on. So now if you implement a new backend changes, and if you want the client to implement use that new feature, so that will be v2 version 2. All that the client has to do is change v2. Again, the question will be like, do they have to go through all the code? No, they don't have to. Here you can choose. In the environment, you can set API version, and so this is in the client side. You can do this. In the client side, you can say API version v1. Done. So the client, again, they will be using env environment variable, so that if the new feature comes which is v2, they just have to go to env file and do that. They don't have to change any of the client to code. So that's the beauty of building an API. So yeah, any questions or anything?
Okay, Diljit has asked something. He has shared a Jamboard. Can you open that? What is that? Diljit, can you?
Okay, any other question, anyone? Any doubts, anything else?
So one thing I noticed that you have chosen .status.2.1. What is
Yes.
that about?
So these are HTTP status codes. Okay.
Okay.
So we have HTTP status codes. So if you go to Mozilla MDN, so they have, so there are many out the standard HTTP codes. So when you are building an API, you should respect this. Even as a client, when building a front end application, you have to respect these codes. So most status code we might have encountered is 404, right? 404. So everyone would have come across 404. 404 means not found. Right, so 500, sometimes you would have gone to a page found 500. So 500 means server error. So if everything goes good, 200, okay. And 201 because we created it. So here saying that it succeeded and a new resource was created as a result. So it's just conventions we have. Again, no hardcore rules, but it's better to follow the conventions and accepted. So many other, if you scroll redirect message, when you're redirecting, you have 301 and client error, not allowed. So if someone is trying to access something which is not allowed, you can send in 405. So you have to always send in a status code along with your request so that the front end can read the status code, understand what happened, if it's error or not. So that's why status code is important. And yeah.
Okay, so we are explicitly passing saying that it should be 201.
Yes. No, it's to the so request came in. This happened, and the result is it was created. So everything went good. So 201. So the client, letting the client know that everything happened great, nothing went wrong. If this would have ended up in a crash, we would have sent here 500, saying it was a crash. So this is just letting the client know what happened. So that gateway, all those are there.
Okay.
Any question, anyone? Yeah, so like I said, so now that you have the API, you can build any interface. You can build a desktop application, which is much greater than GitHub. You can build a mobile application using Flutter, using this API. You can, there will be a 3 input: project name, username, and the issue name. Done. You can press the button, the API will do that creation part for you. And same thing with other things. So that's the power of API.
Okay, one more thing. You have created an environment variable, environment file,
Yes,
.env file.
correct.
So the API auth token also present there, but it's still in the project folder and it still going to be in the GitHub. So how the
Correct. So what you do in that case is that we will create a .gitignore file, and here you can say .env. And so usually gitignore will look, gitignore will have everything that should not go into the GitHub or any other place. So if I go to my project, so here I have a .gitignore file. So gitignore has this all the things that you don't want to end up in the GitHub thing, or the things that you don't want to be tracked by Git. You do gitignore, and once you have that, if you do git init and git.status, git.status, it will be ignored. So if you see here, it's saying .gitignore index node modules package.json, but not .env. Same thing in node modules. You want push node modules to the GitHub. So same thing here. You add that and you do status, it is excluded. So everything that should be excluded by Git, you can put that things in the .gitignore. It will be respected by Git and GitHub.
Okay, I understood. One more doubt I have this when we create while regarding the GitHub's API Octo.
Okay.
So when we create an issue, we also need some categories like status. We when we create an issue, it will be new,
Yes.
and maybe it's pending. We will change into done or like status. So how will we create? If we create a new issue, it will be status new. How
Yes.
could that done?
So that's provided in the this SDK. If you scroll here, you can see assignee. You can assign someone to the issue. You can put labels here. You can assign to multiple browser, so that you can go through this SDK and you can figure that out. Like, so here now I have used only this, but I can also do labels, and labels is like bug dev. I can do this, and if I do another request, it will be done with that. The labels will be generated. So this you can find in the documentation.
Okay, okay, I got that.
Yeah. Okay.